I started off actually as a Chiron operator. I took whatever entry position I could to get my foot in the door. And Chiron, if you're not familiar with it, is the writings up on the screen, somebody's name, the sports score. I was awful. Terrible, messed up the guy's sports scores every single night. So they had to move me. They moved me to researcher. I was really good with the researcher. I befriended one of the reporters and I became her field producer. And from there we went on stories together, and before you know it, within 6 months I was reporting. And I got to work on 2 great shows. One was called Nice People, and it's exactly what it was. We would go around the country and talk to people who were doing great things for the people. So we would go talk to this nun in Tennessee who would do wonderful things for the people in her community. Then I worked on this other show called Winners. And it was people's success stories. Like, for example, I went with Malcolm Forbes to his ranch in Wyoming. We went motorcycle riding, then went back to his house in New Jersey and went ballooning. And it was really, I have to tell you, I met some incredible people. I sat on the mountains in Colorado and talked to the guy who started Celestial Seasonings Tea. John Denver. I mean, this is how long I go back, okay? I'm like a picture of Dorian Gray. I hope to keep getting younger and younger. I talked to John Denver. I mean, I've really been around the country. I had a wonderful producer who would say, find 3 stories in a state and you can go. So that's what I did. And marvelous opportunities. I was doing that for 2 years. But I'm a New Yorker. My family's here, and the pasta was calling me on Sunday, and I needed to get back here immediately. So I got a job at Channel 7. It was with Judy Leck and Doug Johnson. It was Good Morning New York. And I was one of their PAs, and I did whatever grunt work there was to do, anything to get my foot in the door. But I wanted to be reporting. Soon after, like a few weeks later, they decided the show was not working, and they brought in Regis Philbin. At the time, it was Cindy Garvey. I don't know if you remember Cindy. Cindy was married to the ball player Steve Garvey, and it started off as a local New York program, went national, was a hit. Cindy then went off and did something else. And Kathy Lee Gifford came in, and now it's Kelly Ripa. So we're with Regis, today when I heard that he was retiring, I was like, oh no! I have such great memories of working with Regis. What I did for him, I was his segment producer, so what I would do is I would book guests for him, pre-interview, write out little cards with questions, and of course Regis would do his own little thing. And then on Fridays, he would allow me to report for his show, and I would do a family segment, which was great, which was all about, my background. It's all about family, what to do with the family on the weekends. And while I was doing that, I would also go bang on the Eyewitness News producer's door and say, if anybody calls in sick, I'll come work for you. So it worked out. I was working weekends for a long time, and finally they offered me a full-time job at Eyewitness News, and I went there reporting the news for many years. Well, not many, and not enough. It was really my dream job, because I always wanted to work there. I grew up watching Rosanna Scotto. Anybody remember Roseanne? And Bill Butel and Ernie Anastas? And in fact, while I was in college, I had asked Rosanna Scotto, how do you break into the business? Because she was a Brooklyn girl, kind of similar names, and she was a phenomenon in New York. You could not walk the streets without people screaming Roseanne's name. And she said, well, I really don't, I didn't go about it the way most people did. I'm going to introduce you to somebody who did. And she introduced me to Ernie Anastas. And Ernie, he was from Maine. He started the way most of us did. And his advice was, get out of town, make your mistakes, and then come back to New York. And that's what I did. And then 20 years later, I was anchoring with Ernie Anastas on Fox 5. And I thought, my world has gone full circle. And it was really a great experience. I anchored the 10 o'clock news. I reported for the 10 o'clock news, I don't know, for something like 14 years. Did Sunday night anchoring. And then I was given the job full-time on the 10 o'clock news Monday through Friday. I got to travel the world. I've been to Israel, Jordan, Rome many times, most of them following Pope John Paul around. I went to the beatification of Mother Teresa, and when Pope John Paul did his historic trek to Israel and to Jordan to mend relations between Arabs and Israelis and the Catholics, and that was an incredible trip. We had gone to Israel, and it was my first time in Israel. I didn't know much about it except that I was concerned because you hear about all these bombings and stuff. So you sometimes you're a little loopy because of the time difference. And one day I was carrying all my newspapers in a big bag, and we went out for the day to cover the Pope. And all of a sudden I was gone, and I realized I left my big bag with all the newspapers in the lobby of the King David Hotel. So when I came back, I was like, oh, let me just go see if my papers are still here. So I went to the concierge, and he berated me. He's like, Madam, you do not leave a bag in the lobby in any hotel in Israel. While you were gone, we evacuated the hotel. And we threw your bag in the pool. And it was only newspapers. But I learned a lot because now we kind of live in these kind of circumstances now. Back then, I didn't really know. I think it was 2000. I mean, it was before, 9/11. We never worried about these kind of things. But I did get a chance to meet some incredible people in Israel. What I did find was, considering all the religions are right there, they are so separate, and they like it that way. They all turn the key at the Church of the Nativity, and then one day we were walking through the old Jerusalem part, and we were doing the Stations of the Cross, and there were the Israelis, and they were screaming, and they didn't care that we were on this little religious journey, and they didn't respect that we were trying to take in and embrace this moment, and vice versa. And then as you're there, the call to prayer. It was really an eye-awakening experience for a girl from Brooklyn who never saw anything like this before. And then we followed the Holy Father to Jordan. And it was funny because we had a driver, and he said, I can't take you into Jordan. You have to get a visa to go across the bridge, and then, you're on your own, rent a car, blah, blah, blah. Well, the bridge is 3 feet. I mean, literally 1, 2, 3, you're in Jordan. And we get there, and we say, okay, we'll rent a car. Well, we don't know Arabic. And there were no signs. I mean, people are actually using camels as a mode of transportation. I mean, this was not like a zoo. And so now we're on the streets of Jordan asking people if they would help us get to where the Holy Father was going to be. And we did. We found some lovely people. And of course, we paid them, and they took us up in the hills. And it was beautiful to see how many people came out to see him. And we were waiting and waiting for the Pope Mobile to come by. And this man came with sheep and a big samurai sword. And we knew what was going to happen next. Oh, no. And, I had my cameraman. I'm like, listen, I am not looking. You get this all on tape because I'm turning my back. And, of course, as the Holy Father came by, he decided he was going to slaughter the sheep, out of respect for the Holy Father. And it was quite a moment. It was quite a moment, and nobody cared. I mean, it was like a normal day that people were slaughtering animals on the street, and the Holy Father just went by. I don't know if he saw anything. My camera's got it all. Certainly something that's etched in my memory, never will forget.